And we are back. Now, of course, for all intents and purposes, it's not much of a we, it's me. So, with that, I am your grateful, thankful, humble, highly motivated, energized host, Cineo. My faithful co-host Alfluent is not going to be a part of this one. He's off saving different planets and other universes and galaxies that need support. And so, as always, send him your positive vibes and good energy as he does so. But furthermore, as this is being recorded on April 21st, it is 10 o'clock p.m. on the Pacific Coast Standard Time. I want to make sure that we don't miss a beat. So this is me holding it down just in case, right? Because you never know. You're not guaranteed a tomorrow. And with that being said, I want to just, as those that are maybe watching or will watch this in the future, I'm struggling to put the charger in, which doesn't take a lot of effort, but it works itself out. But more importantly, just to kind of give that perspective and insight, as we always do, how I'm doing. So today is the 21st, as I said, of April in the year 2021. We've just experienced a trial of a former officer that murdered someone. Now, I'm saying that with intentionality because I it's true. And it's not that it's true because I feel that way. It's true because society and the structures that we have adopted or held up say it's true. Doesn't mean that it's not true if it wasn't, right? Doesn't mean true or not, right? What we saw is what we saw. And you have the space to feel as though that was a murder, even if it was never brought up in court or if it never went through the due diligence or the process, as they say. But it went through the process and this person was convicted, right? And so, how I'm doing based off of that is I realize I'm walking around a little bit like a raw nerve. And as with most podcasts, we try to find a way to create some sense of community and connection in a very busy and hectic world, especially one where there is still a whole panini pandemic panorama wedding planner happening. I want to make sure that I am conveying my honest truth and being transparent with my feelings and where I'm at in the world. And so this is a conversation where, in my experience, coming from a place of trauma informed care, harm reduction, social emotional learning, just taking into aspect universal design, what it means to come from a restorative lens, all those different things feed into why I'm in this space. It was asked upon me from my colleagues to come into the Lyrical Ones and the Lyrical Opposition family to be a person to have conversation and to lead a conversation. And here I am going to maintain that conversation by myself almost a year later, now as the reflection point, right? The kind of, it's not the tail end, but it is definitely in the spectrum of where we started back in May to where we are right now, where it is April, right? We are literally just weeks away from the, I don't even want to call it, I'll say the date that took place in the 2020 that now will be 365 days since. And now in this space, to have gone through this trial process, to have seen a person convicted, and to know that, yeah, for some, this is cause for celebration. For myself, I will be very forthcoming in saying I can't celebrate this because we still lost someone. There is still a loss of life that has taken place. And I can't see it as a victory because I'm skeptical based off of the life I've had and the experiences I've been through. Now, bear with me, right? I'm saying I'm walking around somewhat as a raw nerve because as much as this situation took place in the sense that this person has been convicted of murder, this person has is guilty on the charges that were presented in the court. I'm almost in the mindset of, is this us saying we're moving towards accountability for all, right? Are we now saying moving forward we will hold those accountable who we see have committed acts of unlawfulness, even if they are the supposed upholders of the law. Is that what we're really saying? Because that's what I'm hoping, right? And I can't celebrate until I know for sure, because not even hours after the verdict, right? We talking about on the same day, another situation arises out of many situations, right? And I'll just highlight three, right? We have Adam Toledo, we have Roger Allen in Daly City, and then we have Micaiah Bryant, right? And that's not to diminish any of the other events that have taken place prior, but those are the most recent in recent times, in the matter of whether it's hours, days, or weeks, because that's the scale of those three different events, right? Hours, days, or weeks from this verdict, where people were like, I'm sure people have seen it on various social media platforms or heard it on the news, and how, people are taking this as a step towards, and I'm hoping that's what this is. I hope this is a true step towards better solutions and outcomes, a careful and thoughtful way of approaching these situations from here on out, because the carelessness is what got us here. But my fear is this is pacification. This again is, for me, a moment in time where I've always had my feelings. I've always had my empathy and my fear and my pain and my anger and my anguish. I've always had those things. But again, what happened with George Floyd hit differently given the timing of it. Because one, nothing else was going on in the world, right? We were all together in this stay at home struggle, right? In this remote struggle. And there were no distractions. You couldn't go to the movies. You couldn't watch sports. You couldn't get lost in something else, because this was the only thing where we all shared a moment of pain, right? As a collective, as a society. And it became larger than as far as I've seen anything that's been prior or after. And I don't minimize anyone's life. I don't minimize anyone's death. They're all painful to me. I wish we could fight and maintain the same energy for every life that is lost, especially when it comes to those lives lost by the hands of law enforcement or people who are supposedly upholding the law. I'm looking at this situation that just took place yesterday, and I'm on edge, because one, I'm like, let's see what you're gonna do next. Let's see if this is gonna be the norm from here out, because this could just be a one-off. They could just say, "We gave you that one. We gave you that one," right? And they never just say it explicitly like they gave you one. It's just in the subtlety of the behavior. It's in the way the system continues to push on, because, as I said, hours later, a young woman is killed. Now, I'm not here trying to justify anything other than, when I'm having a dialogue with my peers, or I'm looking at some of the people I'm connected to on social media, and one of the talking points is, if Dylan Roof can go and kill a bunch of black people with guns and still get a Burger King meal afterwards, how does that hold up in light of these other situations? Because we didn't have visual, anything, no clear understanding of what actually took place other than people's secondhand accounts. And then by the time we got footage, which for most of us it was the following day, then people try to justify taking someone's life. And I in this situation can't justify it, especially when I know there's been other situations that have taken place where a person has taken many lives and has been given such considerable, thoughtful, and careful treatment, right? On their way to the process of being in a trial or being taken into custody, being arrested. That didn't happen. What happened, right, is one of many where a person is killed by the police, right? And there is an ongoing investigation. So there are a lot of elements where we don't have solid facts. We just have a video that is very striking, troubling, disturbing, traumatic, graphic, horrible, right? I try to avoid it, but I felt like I couldn't because of all the conversations I kept hearing, right? Another one where it pains me to see what's happening, but I want to be aware of what's happening because it could happen to me. I don't know what this world holds. I know what I want. I know what I'm going for. But as I've seen repeatedly, people may have other plans. Maybe they don't even have plans. They just may have other preferences. They may have other focuses. They may have other ideas. They may have other reactions. And I'm watching this all take place, trying to maintain a sense of wellness because I got people who need me and who care about me, and trying to give space where space is needed and trying to take space where I need to take space. And, people respond how they respond. Now, of course, you see me with a mask, but without the mask, I could easily be taken as another black male. And for all intents and purposes, how I identify as black and brown, right? I'm a black person and I'm a brown person. What you decide I am, that's up to you. Because whether I'm in a car, depending on how I'm dressed or who I'm around, I could be somebody's brother, I could be somebody's friend, I could be somebody's enemy, or I could be somebody's threatening nightmare. And I live with that because I've been in situations where, yeah, I've had to question, am I going to make it home safely? Am I going to go home? Am I going to be able to see my loved ones? Because I'm now being placed in front of someone who has the power and authority to just decide I'm out. I'm gone. There is no more me. And this situation that I'm seeing take place time and time again, because it's not isolated, it's not just one, it's many, where someone is taken out, right? For whatever the reason is, there's a process that we should all go through, whatever the crisis or whatever the harm being done. What is it that we're saying we're going to agree to prevent these crises from happening, or these traumatic events from transpiring? What are we saying we're going to commit to? I ain't got answers. I got ideas. I got some experiences that are informing different theories in my mind, right? And I'm willing to try them out because where we at looks like failure. And I think if we keep repeating the same failure and getting to the same outcome, I'm not with the insanity. I'm just not. I want something new. And I'd rather fail forward than to keep falling behind. And I see that that's the norm now, right? We got this verdict, and as much as it may be a sense of pressure or relief that has come from this verdict, I hope that it's bringing George Floyd's family some added level of healing in the process of healing, because I can't be the one to determine what's closure. I've lost people. I don't even know what that means. All I know is I'm living, and I'm trying to process every bit of what the loss means to me as I continue living. And so, if it's healing or if it's closure, whatever the case it is, I hope that it's bringing something that is adding to their lives in a meaningful way with intention. But I can't celebrate. And I, more importantly, am seeing how it's impacting my colleagues. So now I'm even more myself. I'm an advocate for others. If you need me, I'm there for you. I'm gonna hold it down. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna have your back. And I have this unfortunate philosophy that I'm trying to break out of. What you do to me, I'll let it be. But what you do to two, you know what I'm gonna do, right? And that's the thing. If it's just done to me by myself, one person, I'm like, whatever. I might feel some type of way, but I'm like, I'll shrug it off. But as soon as I know that that same thing is happening or shared with someone else, all I need is one other person and I'm getting active. Don't let me find out another person. Don't let me find out it's a group of people. Don't let me find out it's anyone. I don't care if you don't do your job the right way. I don't care if you might have an attitude. I don't care if you can't communicate effectively or properly. If harm is being done to you, I'm going to show up. If harm is being done to you, I'm going to be in your defense. I don't care if anybody likes you. I don't care if anybody can defend you. I'm going to defend you. Why? Because I live in a world where that's what I was taught to do. I was taught to stick up for people. I mean, we all highlight and give holidays to our old leaders in the civil rights movement, to the people who we honor with all of the paraphernalia of merchandise, movies, books, and different clothing, and highlighting them in all these different capacities to leverage their likeness and who they were and their experience and their sacrifice, to then talk about they were for the people. And so for me, I was hit over the head with that as a child. And what I try to do is I tried my best. For those that are listening to this, I'm referencing the fact that I'm wearing a mask because those leaders that I kept being shown, they were no longer here. And so I'm like, oh man, how do you be that? How do you do that? Well, Batman wear a mask, Spider-Man wear a mask, Superman don't count. But again, what do I do? Foolish enough, I'm like, I'm gonna wear a mask. I'm gonna show up for my people and I'm gonna put on a mask, right? I put on a mask, and who knows what it's gonna grant me? Who knows what level of space or boundary this is really gonna give? People told me that some people who I've actually met have like told me they forgot what my face looks like, and I'm like, I wonder if I could extend that to the world. I wonder if that can be expanded to more than just the few who've forgotten, right? I wonder if I can just be there for you and not have to jeopardize and compromise my safety, my well-being, and who I am. I believe in the impossible, right? I often tell people in the most space goes coast to coast way, it's not impossible, it's I'm possible. The Adult Swim reference, for those that know or don't know, the TV shows, one of them TV shows said that it's not impossible, it's impossible. And so I ran with it. And I believe that in almost every iteration or variation of what I do. I believe that if I can imagine it, that somehow I can make it real. So in my imagination, I envision being able to show up as an advocate for others without having to jeopardize my personal life. So I still have the space to go about and travel the world without having it be about celebrity, without it being about my ego. Right? I'd rather walk into a room and not have you know who I am than to have people try and praise me for anything. I don't, I can't really see it. And how that feeds into the events that have taken place is I find myself having to speak up for others, realizing that what I have to do first is I have to really speak up for myself. I have to really, when it irks me, when I'm, when I'm so quick to take all the institutionalized experience that I have, and if you don't understand what I mean by that, when I take the dynamics and power structure that I've been inoculated with growing up in school, right? Because think about it. I remember somebody had said this, as it was a teacher, and they were like, if only they knew the power they had in numbers, it'd be a different story. But I'm like, yeah, but we've created a society and a system where your age, your stature, your title, the structure has broken down people to believing that there's no power in numbers, right? That it's more about who you are, your title, not your name, right? We, even in school, we don't say the teacher's whole name. We call them by their last name, right? Mr. or Mrs. or whatever. And to me, it's already creating that distinction of you need to respect me. I, as a teacher, don't have to earn your respect because I've already earned it with my merit. I've earned it with my experience in education. I've earned it by being in this position. Even if you're 5 years old, I don't need to earn your respect. You're under my care. I'm in a position of power. And we carry on this kind of relationship going all the way into work. Oh, they're the manager, they're the supervisor. When in reality, they're all people. They're people who have a responsibility to a role, and you have a responsibility as well. And instead of seeing it as we work together, we often say, "Oh, that's who I work for." Right? I work underneath them. I'm the subordinate, right? I'm the person who is in the hierarchy of needs on the bottom, on the front line, or maybe you somewhere along the chain. But I don't look at it like that, right? I always go back to the idea of like being in a tribe, right? In a tribe, always when I think about it, we are in a circle, right? We all have a role, right? Some of us play different roles, some of us help each other in different instances, but we all exist on the same level, and we just have different responsibilities to the larger whole. And that's how I try to move forward, because if I don't, the events of yesterday just gonna make me go crazy, and I'm just gonna keep yelling and screaming and cussing people out because I'm in pain. Because that's the truth. I'm in pain. I see these events, I see the loss of life, I see what happens to people, and I see that in connection with everything that goes on when people use their status or their title or use their merit to classify themselves as being higher than, better than, because that goes and feeds into that same system that says, for an officer, I'm just trying to make it home. I'm sure most people were trying to make it home. You weren't the only one. But in this society, you oftentimes make it home more enough than the people that you're supposed to protect and serve. And how easy it would be to just say, oh, well, that girl was a bad girl. We don't know her perspective. We don't have the insight to gain any knowledge from what was going on in her mind. We don't. But people gonna say what they want to say. People gonna want to try and stretch out their perception of events to be reality, when reality, it just ain't the same for everyone, right? I mean, that's what this is, right? When I say white supremacy, there's people automatically who tune me out, turn off from what I have to say, and don't want to engage in a conversation because that's a word that triggers a response and an emotional dilemma of, oh, you're one of those. I'm a person who has color, pigment, melanin, and my experiences have been where I've had my life threatened in a variety of ways due to the societal circumstances for what I was placed in, right? Like, ain't nobody over here born rich. Ain't nobody over here born with better than circumstances, right? I was fortunate enough to make it this far, and I was blessed enough to be in a situation where I had people to support me along the way. But by no means did that mean that I just had it. I had to figure out how to get it, and I'm still figuring out how to get it. And with that, it's been a society that has built these systems and this infrastructure where it's like, I mean, we don't question it no more. We ain't nobody questioning what's going on. Don't you know? You pay taxes. You pay taxes. That's it. We pay taxes. We paying taxes. That's it. Why? For what? Where they go? Who hold who accountable? Oh, we voting for somebody? Man, I try my best to vote for measures, right? Because every time I start voting for a person, they start showing their true colors, or they already show their true colors, and they just have conned everybody, right? Like, I don't even want to use conned. They've portrayed something that is not authentic to who they actually are, right? What translates on a screen, who you show up as, right? That's one side of a multi-dimensional person. And people are fooled easily. And it's not to devalue or diminish your intelligence. It's just to say there are people who cannot see, right? People oftentimes be like, oh man, they got me, they played me, oh, this, that, and the third. A lot of times people show up as who they are. And we just don't have the ability to comprehend the information that we're actually taking in to make that determination that this person is not worth my time. We live in a society where that happens time and time again. And then how much do you hold yourself responsible, and how much can you hold another person accountable, right? In this situation where somebody has killed someone, we protest, we voice our concern, we show up. We're still left to trust these people and individuals in this system. And one time, at least in my life, I can recall that, oh my goodness, this guy didn't get away with it. But that's after so many times of people getting away from it or getting away with it, that it's like, so are you telling me as a society we're saying people not gonna get away with this no more? That we're gonna really I'm not saying everybody is justified, but I'm saying there's a lot of questions I have, and it seems like I don't get any answers. A lot of unresolved situations and variables. I mean, I hate to do this. I hate to even say it, but we did have three options for a situation to resolve this year long, now going more than a year, stay at home situation. Now, I ain't gonna say the exact specific words. If you can pick up on it, you can. If you can't, well, one day hopefully you can. But we had three options that turned into two. And a lot of people were so quick to rush to normalcy. We just trying to get back to normalcy. And I've always said, we ain't going back to normal. There ain't no, this is the new normal. Everything is new. And I hate to break it to you. Whatever you thought you knew about life and stability and security is gone. I'm not trying to frighten you. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to put you in any circumstance of panic. I'm trying to have you understand this is your time to learn how to adapt because we got to do it. We ain't got no choice, right? It wasn't that long ago. Texas had pipes exploding from the frost. Pipes was frozen, right? Electrical grid just gone. People without resources, without necessity. California. I remember growing up, I ain't never had to worry about staying at home because I can't breathe. That happens almost every year now, if not every year. And now that people have been set ablaze from the trauma and the violence that so many of us, people of color, black people, brown people, have taken on, and the ability we have to transfer and give each other information, what we going back to again? What sense of normalcy are we talking about? Are we talking about the sense of normalcy where it's normal to just kill people and put them in cages and just act like they ain't there? Or we talk about the normalcy where it's like, oh yeah, slavery, we free, but we not, because as you read the 13th Amendment that says, well, unless you commit a crime. And I'm like, well, people commit a crime, right? But why is it disproportionate when it comes to what they look like? And we know why. We tired of hearing it. We want to do something about it. At least I do. At least for me, right? But I'm just sitting here trying to process. I'm trying to find healing in space. I'm trying to find my consistency so I can get through the day. And I'm just trying to present a way of thinking and engagement, a way of processing, a way of doing something about it, because I know based off of my experiences, it's not easy, but it has to start somewhere. And I'm telling it and saying it as much to myself as I am to you, because when I see you do it, it supports me in being able to do it. And me saying it now means I'm going to have to live up to it. So when another person sees me do it, they know what it's about. People, I just want you to speak up for yourselves. Speak from your truth. Speak from what you know and what you feel and what you're experiencing. You don't have to use somebody else as a reference point. You don't have to use something else to tether it together. Your life means so much more than that. It means everything for you to feel comfortable to be able to say exactly what's on your mind, right? I ain't saying go cuss people out. Don't cuss your boss out, right? Like, I ain't saying that. But I am saying convey what it is that you feel. If there's harm being done, you have to speak up. I don't care how minuscule or how large. You got to let the people know it ain't okay. Because what I'm seeing is we oftentimes allow things to happen and we don't realize how each one of those little things stack on top of each other until we can't take no more, right? Oftentimes we take little by little by little, and sometimes we even lose sight of what it is, but we never let go of that feeling. We never let go of how it felt, right? We might forget the time that it happened, the day that it happened. We might even forget who did it to us. But what you don't forget is you don't forget that feeling, right? Because once that feeling is hit, and it's hit again, and it's hit again, you'll get to a point where you can't take it no more. And that's why I'm saying I've oftentimes have had conversations with my colleagues. It'd be us. We have a conversation. We say things in confidence to each other. And they'd be like, oh no, we can't say it to them. We can't say it to the others, right? So what happens? We just sit with this pain and we console each other through it. And I mean, if that's what you want to do, okay. But again, how much of that is reinforcing and supporting the society that tells us we should celebrate this man being convicted when that should be the norm. Will that be the norm is the question I'm always asking. I'm praying that we're going to hold people accountable and that it ain't going to be about what you look like, but it's going to be about what you did. But I'm so afraid that we are so far from that truth, right? We got one, but is it because of how high profile this case was that we got that one? I got to ask those questions because the same ones who look like me be some of the same ones who be quick to turn us out, right? Because sometimes it be young people, right? It'd be like, oh, I thought you was with me. And they'd be like, nah, I'm with them. And be like, oh, so that's why these initiatives and this is why my home looks the way it does, because you've been able to con me or make me believe in you only for you to set me up to be thrown away. Because that happens. I'm saying, speak up for yourself. Because when you start to speak up for yourself, you'll find out that you're actually speaking for everybody else too. But it's not enough to wait for someone else. It's not. When we cut it off as it happens in the moment, we can put it behind us. But if we don't, we hold on to it and it's gonna add up. It's gonna add up because it's been adding up. And I'm struggling through the words to be able to say it to you, but I'm saying this as a form of solidarity. I'm saying this as a form of community. I'm saying this because I don't feel like I hear it often. We all talk about our pursuit for financial independence and stability, but we often don't talk about our awareness of self, our self advocacy. What is it that we need for ourselves? Because we could talk a main game, a mess, but how does that show up in the spaces that we are often? If you spending 1/3 of your day at one place, 1/3 of your whole day, 1/3 of your whole day, 1/3 of your whole day. I'm saying 1/3. Don't take into account, right? Because we just said this backstage. If you got to commute, that cuts into your time, right? They say 1/3 is your work, 1/3 is what you do, and 1/3 is rest, right? But if we really look at it, when you really break it down, 1/3 is work, and then you got to give up a piece of what you do to get to and from work. You got to give up a piece of your awake hours. Some of y'all be falling asleep and you can fall asleep, and some of us can't. We always got to be on the road at all times. So you got a third guarantee, a 30 your day guarantee to someone else who's determined your value, your hourly value, right? Because we getting money, but time you can't get back. So you invest them hours that turn into years, a third of your days are all consumed in this one area, right? You literally plan your energy and your output around that 1/3 of the day. Ain't got time for yourself to do anything. The energy to play with your kids, right? You try to just put them in front of a screen or give them something to preoccupy themselves with, but the actual interaction, right? I'm saying it because I have experienced it as a child myself. I'm saying it because I'm trying to avoid it. I'm saying it because I see my peers going through it right now. I'm saying it because I'm trying to find a way to avoid it, to stop it from happening through self advocacy. Because I think it's not the only solution. I think it's one of many solutions. Right? I'm not saying it's the end all be all. I'm saying we got to get a toolkit because we got to build the world we want to see. And in that toolkit, you're gonna need this. And that one thing, a part of many other things that we will cover and discuss and talk about and explore and find out and experiment with. I really think self advocacy is one of them because it's a reoccurring thing, right? I'm looking at a life loss, another life loss, another life loss, more lives to lose because that's what's happening. Lives are being lost, regardless of why and how. There's lives being lost, and it just so happens that a lot of them look like my family members. A lot of them look like people that I used to know. So what can I equip you with to give you some sense of hope other than something that we all have within ourselves, and that's taking care of you? Self advocacy. Again, a third of your day is spent at work. You got to use your own time to get to and from, right? Not to mention prepping around that schedule, right? You got to prep around it. And then if you lucky or blessed to actually sleep, that should be a third of your time. If you lucky. Some of us be like, I don't need sleep. I keep going. It's nothing. I stay awake. I ain't got to see nighttime. I see nighttime as another time to do some stuff. Okay, fair enough. That's on you. Do your thing. As the clip said, Lord willing, I mean, it is. You do you, right? But not everybody could do that. Not everybody could function like that, right? And what I'm trying to say is that infrastructure is the same infrastructure that exists to oppress and keep us controlled, right? Like I'm saying we moving into an era, right, where that because of the situation. I remember we used to talk about it all the time, like the amount of well, the reason why we don't want y'all working from home is because how we gonna know what you doing, what you need to do? You gonna know if you get what you supposed to get. If you're not getting what you're supposed to get, well, do what you got to do. What you holding on to me for, right? But that's the argument in the past, in the pre panini bread, the pre panda bear. They said, I remember because we used to say, why can't we work from home? Like, if all we're gonna do is this, why can't we do this from home? And it's like because that's just not what the job entails, or how we know you're gonna do what you're supposed to do. How we know you just ain't gonna kick it at home and just take a nap? What's wrong with that? You really ain't got to worry about the insurance implications if I'm on a clock because I'm no longer in your facility. I'm at home. What's wrong with that? Oh, because we've said this is the norm of how we work. It doesn't lend flexibility to who you are as an individual because you are not a robot. Yet that's what we try to produce as robots. Because if you think about school, right, it's like we give you a piece of paper. We want you to input this information in your brain and then output it back onto the paper. Right. But that's not who you are because obviously it ain't working for everybody. It works for some, but a lot of times it works for those who have these extra supports, right? They have that extra layer of cushion to keep them moving forward in a way that is sustainable for them to be in that space, right? They might have adequate means of living, transportation, food, the ability to sleep. We don't think about it like that, right? We think of pull it up, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Pull yourself up by pull you American, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. When 9 out of 10 of those people, oftentimes, they were hand delivered their boots on a purple velvet pillow, right? They telling you what to do. When I think of like speaker speaker of the Plantation House, Nancy Pelosi, multi-million dollars, right? And it's like, oh, why are you attacking a woman? I'm not attacking a woman. I'm saying what she said yesterday, she earned that title, Speaker of the Plantation House. Thank you. I believe it was thank you, George Floyd, for your sacrifice. He didn't intend to set out that day to sacrifice his life. It wasn't like Martin Luther King, right? Martin Luther King had a philosophy and approach and knew that what he was doing, as much as he may try to avoid it, there is that threat of someone's going to try and take you out, right? There are people who go in willingly knowing they may have to sacrifice their life for what they're trying to achieve. George Floyd, uh, I didn't know who he was until that moment. Till that moment that I saw on social media that this man, for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, right? All these different associations. Like I say 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and some of y'all are like, wait, what's that? And some of y'all are like, oh, that was the amount of time that he was held down on the ground with a knee in his neck, right? Imagine he didn't. That was not what he wanted. You think that's what he wanted associated with his name? Was the timestamp of pain, agony, and torture unto his death? Like MLK, we know I Have a Dream. He wrote that, and he put himself in position to try and be a leader for people. George Floyd was just going about his day, and yet we're now in an era where death is common and frequent for black people to be put in harm's way without question. And I know people like, oh, who are you to tell me self advocacy? I am no one. I was gonna say it and use it up, but I ain't gonna use it up. And what I mean by what it was I was gonna use, we try to keep the cussing to a minimum. I try to make this a family friendly affair. I'm sorry if my aggression may catch some people off guard, but it's real. I'm just saying, I think self advocacy is one of many tools that we can start to incorporate to figure out how do we push things forward in a positive, healthy, sustainable manner. Right? I ain't gonna tell you what's right or wrong. You could decide what's right or wrong for yourself. But I will say, is it sustainable based off of what society has given us, based off of what society is, and where we want society to be? Is it sustainable? Is it healthy? Does it give you longevity in life? Does it make your time worthwhile if a third of your day is spent at work? And then within that one third, right, it's all under the value system of something you didn't get to create, right? You didn't get to pick your family. You didn't get to pick who they was. But you hopefully get to a point where you can decide who's around you. Hopefully. Not everyone does, but if you do, right? I hope you see the dynamic and the difference in those two worlds. You didn't get to pick who you was born with, but at a certain point, if you have the means, the awareness, the know-how, the knowledge, the feeling to decide who's going to be around you or what you're going to do, that's a way of changing your life. And another piece of that is to advocate for yourself and what you need. Some of you don't have a problem with it, but some of us do, right? Oftentimes it's not until the pressure mounts that I'm willing to make that play, right? That I'm willing to say those things that I need for myself. But oftentimes it looks like my advocacy comes by way of other people. You tell me what you need. All right, now we're going to use that to leverage and bargain for what we need. And that's needed, that's necessary, but shouldn't always be the case. It should be even between my advocacy for myself and my ability to advocate for you if that's what you're looking for. Because that's a whole nother thing. Like, do you actually have that person's support for advocating for them? Because I'm just trying to think of something that we could look forward to, that we can engage with to change what's going on. Because again, not everyone's going to agree with my perspective. Not everyone's going to agree with my tool set. But if one person can see it and one person can adapt it to just speak up about what they need, right? About the harm being done and how they trying to stop that harm from happening, right? I think it go a far way because again, our time was not decided by us. Some are aware and willing and have the ability to change their time. And some people need the dependency of a set structure that's given to them. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but there's some of us where I think there's a room, a space for flexibility that we haven't explored because now the conversation is changing. But again, who's the one leading the conversation and why? Is it because we were put in a year that has shown us society does not have the means to really take care of us if a global panini was to take place? Right? If everyone was to be put in a circumstance of you no longer have control over what you do or what you want to do because there's a threat, an external threat that could potentially do a lot of harm. How is society set up to really keep you safe and keep you comfy? Especially within that same year, you've had to witness so many horrific events, especially when it comes to people of color, right? That extends itself not only to the Black community, the brown community, the Asian community, but any community that feels like they've been in harm's way, right? Wasn't that long ago we were talking about women who were finding out that their organs were being removed after they've been at the border, the United States border, at a detention camp, right? Wasn't it's not it's every day we're hearing about another case of a person from the Asian community being assaulted or met with violence because of, again, our former leader of the free world, our former president, enabled, right? Because people, I hate this. I hate seeing these articles. How did we let white supremacists infiltrate the government? How do we let them infiltrate law enforcement? Where did they come? Look, white supremacy always been there. Racism always been there. It's just now someone has given them the okay, right? Supported them in that behavior to think that they can now show up in this way where hatred and violence is the means to get their point across. It ain't about a philosophy. It's literally about action, right? When Trump said, stand by, I guess they no longer standing by, right? That's just the reality we living in, right? When you look around the world, Trump has had an impact that is global. It has had an impact that hatred is now being manifested in new ways, in new systems, right? Because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a system that's built off of that. And so I'm hoping that, of course, it may not seem like it, but I'm hoping in one of those, self-advocacy is a tool that we can employ to change that narrative, to change that way of being, to change that way of thinking, so we can broaden the perspectives that unfortunately have been limited and reduced and narrowed in scope. Because again, one man has given the permission to so many who have been holding on to these horrible, hateful sentiments, right? I even hate saying this, but there's truth in it. I thank that person for showing me what was really there, because for a second I thought it was getting better, but I realized we got a lot more work to do. Right? Technologically, it might be better, right? In terms of resources and luxuries and conveniences, okay, yes, there's something there. But in terms of how people are treated, there's a lot more work to do. So speak up for yourself. And again, I say that as I say it to myself. I say it to you as I say it to me. I want everyone to really take the time they need to reflect, to process, to really digest all of what's happening in this moment in time, and really get to know and understand what is it that you need for yourself. And don't be afraid to speak up about what you need for you. So I'm not going to go on too much longer. I appreciate everyone who is going to listen or has listened or has been with us. And I'm just hoping that you were able to receive something out of all this that gives us the ability to move forward in a positive and sustainable way, in a healthy way. So I am Cineo. This has been episode 45 of the Lyrical Ones podcast. And as we like to do at this time, is I go for mine. I mean, sometimes you just gotta wild out. You know what I'm saying? No reference to the MTV show as well. I mean, literally just gotta get loose. But am I gonna be able to pull it off like how Floyd pulls it off week in, week out? Because I ruined it for him a couple weeks. I ruined it for him a couple weeks. Because he would be like, you know, one. I ain't say it a lot of him, but I'll keep the gesture going. Y'all be good.